Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation to be at this conference and speaking to such a distinguished audience. Um, what I intend to do today is something slightly different from what I usually do when I make my presentations. What I usually do is drown the audience in charts and numbers, and I won't do this today. I want to really take a step back and try to take a look at the big picture, actually leaving many things outside, but focusing on the elements that I think are the most important in answering these questions. I think that is a very felicitous title. It was not given by me, but a very felicitous title to the keynote speech in this conference, because I really think that answering the first question, where are we now, is essential so that we understand how we will write the next chapter in the Brazil story. Really, I think that more than in many other occasions, looking back at what has worked is crucial. It's crucial so that we can make sure, first of all, that we keep the things that have worked and that we improve on them. And also because I think that the mere sense that there were things that worked very, very well for us is actually like an element that can reinforce the adherence to these tenets, these principles. Well, what do I have in mind here? Brazil, for a few decades, actually, during my young age, was taken by, I would say, deep frustration at macroeconomic results. And I would say that during that time, because results were indeed quite poor, growth was slow, was unstable, inflation was high, was also unstable. We were given to trying to diagnose all the reasons why things were not going so well. And we actually came up with many, many stories for why things were not going so well. And probably most of them are to some extent correct. We identified many vulnerabilities, many fragilities, many reasons for why things were not really working. Since I would say the 90s, we have been working seriously in trying to improve on these shortcomings. It's not that we made progress evenly on all of them. And Amaury has mentioned a few in which there is still considerable progress to be made. There is an agenda of structural reforms that has been only superficially tackled so far, including things related to the tax system. But in spite of the uneven progress that we've made in a number of those dimensions, we did make quite a lot of progress in some of them. And just by making this progress, as I said, quite a lot of it, in a few dimensions of those that had been identified as factors that were locking up Brazil's growth potential, this has already been sufficient to actually change perspectives in a very dramatic way. This doesn't mean, of course, that we wouldn't benefit further from actually making the progress that we have not made already in the dimensions that are still to be worked on. But I would say that it puts in perspective the value of the few things in which progress has been absolutely dramatic. And I would point out here two big themes that I think, to my choice, to my mind, are the most emblematic in bringing us to where we are now. One of them I'm sorry if this has been repeated many, many times by many people. Just the fact that it's not a new insight doesn't make it any less true. One is the achievement of a much greater degree of macroeconomic stability. One cannot simply leave this aside and pretend that this was just, well, I mean, well, it's just a little bit of the story, but not really like a main driver. I would say that this is absolutely key. Macroeconomic stability here, I understand in a broad sense, not only in having inflation lower and more stable, also having interest rates lower and more stable, having growth faster and more stable. It's actually like making the behavior of these main macroeconomic variables better, not only in terms of the average, but in terms of the variance that you have in these variables. What has this done? This has allowed for many things and has a kind of self-reinforcement element that is very strong. It has allowed for horizons, planning horizons in general, for households, for corporates, for everyone to be lengthened. It has allowed for confidence to build on nominal contracts. It has made it viable for financial intermediation to be true financial intermediation, not just a mechanism to cope with the high inflation environment that we had in the past. It has enabled credit to expand in an absolutely impressive way, as Amaury also has mentioned. In the last 8 years, the credit over GDP ratio more than doubled, which is quite an impressive result. It has also allowed for progress in social indicators of various sorts, including income distribution, most notably, and poverty, which also increases social cohesion around the project overall. And it has notably reduced the demand for a big break from what has been done recently. Here I will point out the difference between the situation in which we have now, in which we are approaching a presidential election in Brazil, actually a general election, and in this election there isn't anyone claiming to come to be the one who will change everything in the country. Actually, the candidates are mostly pledging to continue with the right things that have been done in the past decade or so. So again, I would say that this overall stability environment has made an enormous difference. We passed recently a very, very important test. This global crisis has been quite a test, very challenging one. It's not that we traversed this difficulty totally unscathed, as if we were living in a different planet. That would hardly be possible with a crisis of the scale that we had. But I think that Brazil proved a degree of resilience that was quite reassuring. And here I would like to remind you of the most precise meaning of the word resilience. Some people confuse resilience with the ability not to be affected at all by shocks that you get from the outside. Some people confuse resilience with the ability to continue functioning in spite of being seriously affected by a shock that happened outside. But actually, the most precise definition of resilience that actually is the definition used in science is the ability of a body to, after having been seriously shocked and even deformed by shock, to go back to its original shape. And I think that this is exactly what Brazil did. We suffered a very strong shock in the end of 2008, but the economy managed to go back to its original shape and be prepared to continue the story that we were seeing until that time. We proved, I would say, a number of things with this episode. Right prior to the aggravation of the crisis in 2008, I think that we demonstrated that Brazil does have its own growth drivers that are sufficient to push the economy ahead, even if the global environment is not one of the greatest prosperity. The Brazilian economy, everyone must remember, continued to grow and actually accelerated its growth all the way to the third quarter of 2008, when the global economy was clearly decelerating already, and when many emerging markets, even countries in Latin America, were clearly decelerating in tandem with the global economy. Brazil was still picking up pace. So those drivers, like now, they showed that they are quite strong. Then during the crisis, I think that we realized something that most of us were not sure that was the case, that we do have counter-cyclical instruments to deal with a shock of that kind. We had never had them. Whenever we had a crisis of that sort that caused the economy to slump, what we needed to do to deal with more emergency problems that the crisis brought was actually to aggravate the slump. And this time it was totally different. First of all, the exchange rate responded quite strongly, to the crisis. But the fact that it responded in a way that, except for specific moments, was actually, I would say, more or less in line with what fundamental drivers of the exchange rate were suggesting that the exchange rate should do. And I'm talking notably about commodity prices, the value of the dollar against other currencies, and etc. The fact that the currency behaved this way allowed for monetary policy, to step in and produce a degree of easing and stimulus that was at par with the degree of deceleration that the economy had suffered. Second, the change that we've made over several years in the structure of assets and liabilities of the public sector also allowed for a windfall gain from this currency depreciation that actually opened room for fiscal expansion to be implemented without causing the net debt to GDP ratio to get totally out of line. Actually, on impact, the net debt to GDP ratio fell. And with the expansion, it basically climbed back more or less to the trend where it had been before. During, I would say, the height of the crisis, as I said, we proved that we had access to the monetary and fiscal mechanisms to stabilize the economy. And then after, what we have shown is that the economy can go through this shock and then prove its resilience, as I mentioned in the beginning, leaving the crisis behind, but not just recovering from the crisis, still dragged by a negative legacy effect that is related either to the crisis itself or to measures taken to deal with the crisis, which is the case in so many other countries. Brazil is basically back into things are back into place. They snapped back into place, and we are more or less in the same shape as we were prior to the crisis and ready to continue without any such legacy effect. And by legacy effect, just to be more concrete, what I mean is the need for continued deleveraging by agents of any kind, be them households or financial institutions, or the need for a big fiscal retrenchment down the line. We talk a lot about fiscal consolidation in Brazil again and removal of stimulus, but again, what we talk about is basically going back to the same bottom line in terms of fiscal results that we had prior to the crisis. not that we need an extra effort on top of it, but it's actually going back to that kind of performance, a kind of performance that allowed us to grow and like there was no obstacle to it. So again, I think that we passed this test, I would say, with flying colors, with pain during the crisis, but with flying colors, like in the final result. Well, one element, as I said I would choose two elements to highlight here. One was macroeconomic stability. The other one is the development of the capital markets. I have no doubt that this is having a tremendous impact on the way that the Brazilian economy functions. This is in part result of macroeconomic stability itself. Without a certain degree of stability, it would not have been possible for the capital markets to develop in the way they did. But there have also been institutional developments, let me put it this way, related to the building of a solid market infrastructure, to a culture of asset management, to requirements of transparency and information, both by managers and by corporates. Several measures that, like Amaury also has mentioned in his initial presentation, that are related to the regulatory infrastructure of the market. All these elements together with the macroeconomic stability itself have conspired to create a potential for capital market development that has been nothing short of amazing. This, of course, has had one very obvious result, which is to bring financial resources, made them available to those who want to make productive investment. But it has also had other layers of effects that are as much, if not even more, important in the long run. It has basically changed completely, I would say, the quality of corporate governance in Brazil. It has allowed for very ambitious entrepreneurial initiatives and has allowed for the efficient restructuring of several industries, restructuring both in terms of corporate structure, but also in terms of industrial organization, in terms of how these sectors are distributed. It has allowed for greater formality in a number of sectors too, as Amaury has also mentioned already today. If you tell someone who is a very, very young equities analyst how some of these sectors used to work in the 90s, most of them will say, well, that's an aberration. That's totally archaic. I mean, it cannot, that could not simply be, could not work. On the other hand, if you were to go back, say, to the 90s, as recently as the 90s, if you were to go back then and tell anyone that in the first decade of the new century, the progress to be made by several of these sectors will be the progress that we already have seen so far, I think that most people would not believe it. It says, no, you're being too optimistic. Change like this doesn't happen from one day to the next. It's going to take a very, very long time for us to get there. Lo and behold, here we are. Here we are. That's where we are. So again, I would say that these two elements, macroeconomic stability and the development of capital markets, were the two linchpins of the progress that we've made so far. And in a sense, when I ask myself what the next chapter will look like, I have a little bit of the sensation that the next chapter is not really a next chapter. It's just a very extended version of the chapter that we are reading already. We are there already. It's not just Brazil is the country of the future, as we so often used to believe in the past. It's actually, the country of the present and the future that is in the making, right? Again, I'm not saying that there isn't room for further improvement or there won't be challenges to deal with as we go along. If the chapter gets extended, there needs to be new elements in the plot, right? I mean, the story is always changing a little bit, but the leitmotif, the main theme of the progress that we are still likely to see over several years going forward, I would say is still the same. Is still collecting the so-called dividends from stability and collecting the dividends from much more efficient financial intermediation, in particular when it comes to capital markets. There's actually two elements here. I mean, progress made, even if the room for progress in consolidating macro stability or in making capital markets improve, even if we reach a saturation point with respect to both of these processes, the benefits will continue to accrue on a permanent basis. But for the next several years, I think that we will have an additional element, which is the gains from the process as it goes along, as progress is made in the two dimensions. I think that this gives you an extra boost to the positive element before you reach, the say steady state or the stationary growth path, as economists like to call it, under the new conditions. There will be themes, there will be challenges. I would say that my favorite theme now, looking forward, is how the economy will deal with the obvious need for increased investment, right? Investment had been growing prior to the crisis. This process, made a sudden stop with the crisis, which is only so natural. Now the progress has restarted again, and the question is, how is the economy going to cope with this? Actually, I think that it's a question of coping with success, because for a long time, the question was whether investment would be forthcoming or not. Now investment is forthcoming, there's no question about it. The remaining, I would say, question is, has more to do with how this investment will exactly be financed, right? There is some room for increases in domestic savings. Domestic savings may increase through a number of channels, but I don't think that household savings are a very promising frontier for the increase of savings in the Brazilian economy, for a number of reasons that I don't want to bore you with now. But one of them has to do with the fact that we are very close to the peak of the demographic situation already. And one of the main drivers of household savings is demographic change. Since we are peaking already, there doesn't seem to be much benefit for being obtained from that dimension. But there is some room for corporate savings to increase in Brazil, to improve in Brazil. Some of this may be related with the mere fact that investment opportunities are more promising now, which may encourage corporations to retain more profits to reinvest. But it may also have to do with this favorable commodity price cycle that we are living these days, that may turn the operations of the commodity producers more profitable and make those agents more capable of financing their own investment cycle than they would be otherwise. But even if domestic savings do go up, and do go up to make up for some of the increase that we want to see and that we are seeing already in domestic investment, there will be a gap, and there will be an increasing gap. We'll have the need to attract foreign capital to participate in the financing of this investment. And for that, of course, it's necessary that you have a friendly business and investment environment that will actually indeed attract these capital flows. I think that this is a very pragmatic need, and as a pragmatic need, I think it's a good bet that it will materialize, since, like, no, it will indeed be very important. There are elements that we have developed in the meantime that will enable us to live with greater tranquility in an environment in which investment will be greater, and there will be greater reliance on foreign financing for this investment. And one of these elements is the accumulation of international reserves by the Central Bank of Brazil. It has exceeded even the wildest dreams of analysts when this process of reserve accumulation started in 2004. But I would say that it's actually very important for Brazil to have a sizable level of international reserves, because although conditions should be put in place, and I believe that they will be put in place to make investment opportunities attractive in Brazil, so that there will be the external financing forthcoming, still it's possible that from time to time, due to conditions in the global economy, this financing may not be as large as necessary for the momentary necessities of the country. So having a high level of international reserves gives you the insurance against, like, those moments in which there may be some scarcity of financing, enabling the central bank to bridge these moments instead of forcing the economy to shrink to fit in the size of the available external financing at that particular moment, and then having to, like, expand again when things come back to normal. This availability of reserves and the readiness to provide this sort of bridge financing would actually also have an important effect in making everybody understand that there won't be, say, lock-up periods associated with a very depreciated currency because momentarily financing has become scarce. So it is an element also to make the attraction of foreign financing more stable over time, right? Well, I would say that these are the big themes for the remainder of the chapter that we are writing as we speak. And as I said, I think that we still have, like, many pages to turn in that same chapter with the same themes still delivering results that are, like, there's no comparison between these results and the results that we would have had in the absence of these two building blocks that I mentioned. One, macro stability; the other one, the development of capital markets. I'll leave it at this. We have budgeted for a little time for Q&A, so please feel free.
Yeah, I'd like to open the forum for questions.
Do we have any questions?
Absence of questions, like, tells me that I have either been exhaustive or exhausting.
Yeah, we've just got time for one question for the next session. No one know anything about Brazil?
I have one question. So, Eduardo, what do you think is the big next step for Brazil? If we see in the building blocks, of course, we know that there's two large building blocks in there that you mentioned, in terms of, like, the corporate governance and sort of like capital markets development, in terms of the macroeconomic stability. what do you think would be the big next step for Brazil to get the leap forward?
Well, Marie, that's the thing. I mean, I don't think, again, this is not the way I see it. I don't see a big next step. I see that this is a step or a sequence of steps that is ongoing and that will continue for a long time. And actually, I have to tell you, I value much more the sense that we will continue making steps in the same direction in deriving benefits from the same, basic building blocks that we've developed so far than any hope of a, say, big bang that might take place from one moment to the next. I think it's actually like now what we need. What we need is permanence more than big bangs. But then it's again my own personal take. This is not to say that there isn't a big agenda of things like now to be done. Reforms of several kinds could be beneficial even if they were not implemented to perfection, right? So if you could, for instance, just to take an example, I'm not saying that this is necessarily the most important element of all, but if you could make improvements to the tax structure, that would be great. Perhaps waiting for the moment in which you could turn the tax structure into the perfect one is not the most productive approach. Perhaps you should take it little by little and try to make improvements as opportunities arise and then go along like this. But then again, it's not a big bang approach, it's a gradual progress approach. Gradual but steady and actually quite firm to my mind.
Okay, we've just got time for our last question.
Ricardo Diniz from Thomson Reuters. Which barriers are the most significant ones to overcome towards speeding up international flow to Brazil versus going to China?
Well, Ricardo, I tell you, I think that we already have a significant comparative advantage in a number of dimensions, right? Of course, China is a very important economy. It's a very large market itself. So I don't think that investments that are directed there will easily go anywhere else. But I think that we have a number of elements that will enable us to attract investments here. And one very notable one in which I think we are very different from China is the fact that we want to do infrastructure investment because infrastructure investment is actually needed. It's not just because infrastructure investment is a part of the, say, structure that is sustaining demand expansion and necessarily needs to continue regardless of whether or not that particular piece of infrastructure is demanded to the point of being capable of producing adequate returns to investors. This is more the story of China. The story of here in Brazil, is a story in which infrastructure investment will be necessary and will be demanded. It's in demand. It's in demand to a point that opportunities to invest in this segment will arise and likely be able to compensate for the investors that put in their resources. So I think that the expansion story and the investment story in Brazil is very attractive. Brazil is also now clearly, in regional terms, I would say, clearly the best address for you to locate if you want to make, say, regional investment plans. And this is, if nothing else, a question of size, but also a question of economic conditions more broadly and the dimension of the upside that you have in terms of market growth. So I would say that the conditions are there, but it's not about stealing from China the investment that might otherwise be going there. it's really, it's a question of making sure that the conditions are here that will justify sufficient attraction of capital on our own merits without necessarily have like no to do the zero-sum game with another like no very promising destination, which is China. All right, thank you very much.